All right, so we are back, Linton Things Part 2 with Kai. So first off, thanks again for jumping on to continue the conversation.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
yeah, I think the last time we kind of got a nice broad spectrum of your life and the beginning and how it started. But today I would like to kind of give you the opportunity to dive a little bit deeper, share a little bit more that you feel comfortable sharing. Because I think that you can bring a perspective that many people are looking for when they're trying to understand somebody else's narrative. You know, it's your narrative, it's other people's narratives. And I think what happens is that we try to put ourselves in a narrative that we don't understand. So being able to have these open conversations, it kind of opens the door and invites us into your narrative, into your story. So thanks so much for doing this again. And I had one question and now I forgot what I was going to start with, but I'll go here. Oh, I know. So when we did the first podcast and Garrett reached out and asked you, would you be willing to come on to our podcast and start our story and share your story?
Mhm.
Why did you say yes?
I said yes because I do want, hopefully, the information that I give to help other people, like a younger generation that might be going through the same thing, different stuff. So any information that I can give that could possibly help somebody else, that's why I'm doing this. So I feel comfortable talking about my story. I feel comfortable explaining things to the best of my ability. So yeah, that's I'm completely comfortable with this. So
I love that. I love that. And I love that you continue to say it's my story. So what you're trying not to do is to force your story onto somebody else. You're simply just saying that this is my story. This is what I've been through. This is the journey that I took.
yes.
And if you can get something from it, whether you are somebody that is having similar feelings, is deciding to transition yourself, or somebody that doesn't understand, your insight could give them that little bit of a different perspective and an opportunity to kind of sit and listen to something that's a little bit different. Um, so that's super cool, and I'm super grateful for that. I think it's going to help a lot of people. So one of the things that we touched on in the last podcast when we were kind of doing like the overview was um, your feeling of being more masculine and liking more masculine things.
Yes.
Um, so what I would like for you to kind of elaborate on is I also we talked about like growing up, I was a tomboy. I like to dress in pants. I like to hang with the guys. From I was a dancer, so I had to wear like more feminine, girly stuff in performance wise. But like my overall style was very, as it is today. I'm always in a sweatshirt, leggings, jeans. Like I was just very much that type of person. Don't put me in a dress. Didn't get married in a dress. Like don't like it.
Right.
Um, but I never felt like I wasn't a girl, and I never felt like I was, and again, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, like in the wrong body.
Mhm.
For you, when did it when did you know and how did you know that it was more about it was deeper than just what you were wearing and what you looked like on the outside?
So I'm actually glad that you sent me this question ahead of time because then
Yeah.
I had the chance to fully immerse myself in the actual feeling of it. So it's a very common misconception that children don't know what they want before puberty, and I don't mind being the voice saying that's not always the case. I started showing signs of misunderstanding which gender I belonged to before puberty.
Mhm.
So as early as first grade.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. I would actually take my mother's eyeliner and physically draw on my facial hair.
Mhm.
So that was just my way of like trying to see my own face in the mirror because I've always had a dissociation from recognizing my face. So when I started to grow facial hair, it started to make more sense in the role that I thought I was supposed to be
So what you're saying is every time you looked in the mirror, it didn't match how you felt.
in. No.
It never did from
And
interesting.
that was
Okay.
that was before puberty.
Right.
So When it came to wearing clothes, I wore what was comfortable, but I was also told I wasn't allowed to wear certain clothes. So, from my perspective, I grew up with a mother who tried to validate her own insecurities by projecting her opinion and her reputation and how she visually wanted to see her children onto me. And structurally, it's like living in an emotional prison because you're trying to figure out yourself, but also you're constantly being told what not to do and how to do things. So like I said, I started at a very young age already experimenting with trying to play football, trying to do male sports, trying to also make my family happy with doing female things, learning to cook, learning to do chores. But I feel that we shouldn't gender specify a simple task. I think that chores should not be gender specified. Making a bed, it should not have to matter if you made it like the terminology you throw like a girl. Perfect example. I don't like that because that shouldn't exist. There should be no you throw like this. It's just the task is you threw the ball. That's it. And the weight of everybody else's opinions seems to take over that, which it shouldn't. So that's how that started very, very young. And then it just progressed into me constantly shifting between should I do this or should I do that? And then I didn't fit in with either. I didn't feel like I fit in with either because I was trying too hard. I can't hear you. Okay, now I can.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sure you heard my dog first. Okay, so meaning that you were trying so hard to please your family's views, the views that you were supposed to have, the image that you were supposed to have, and you were trying to figure out who you were. And there was always this conflicting between
Yeah.
the two. It never felt natural for you on either spectrum, just because
Right.
it was so forced all the time.
Yes, because it was such a yes, because it was meant to be so direct on what either gender should be doing. Like it was like stay in your category kind of feeling. So for someone like me, like I wanted to try everything.
Right.
So I kept hitting these walls. So I obviously cannot speak for everyone's experiences, but I know that many people probably feel the same way, especially young children that are forced to validate their parents' opinions in a way. So there's a lot of projection of I want you to function in society the way that I want, and
Gotcha.
that's not always the way that it should be.
Do
A
you
child should be allowed to explore all the options of what they want to do.
Yeah, that was gonna be kind of my next question, is that do you feel like that there is a fine line between how do I wanna say this? Do you feel like there's a fine line between exploration, meaning just being kids, and then the pressure or restriction on being a specific way in society? Like, because I think what you're saying, I think, is that children should be able to explore and
Mhm.
kind of see what they like and what they don't like. But what's
Yes,
happening is that if it's not falling into a specific category, that is where it's almost like the other side of the spectrum, like, jumps to the other side. It's almost like there's no room to just explore anymore.
that's a perfect example. Yes,
Okay.
it doesn't seem like there's room to explore.
Right.
So if say a girl wanted to go and play football, I think that should be okay. If a boy wanted to join gymnastics, that should also be okay.
Mhm.
We've we've separated the line between survival and what society deems as survival as the of the fittest. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just making everything very confusing. And I feel bad for this generation because they're just being unloaded with new terminology, political laws that are going constantly shifting against them. So it can be difficult. It can be difficult just to want to talk about how you feel because you feel like you're going to be shot down instantly.
Yeah, or you're going to be catapulted into a direction that you weren't even trying to get to. It's almost like you're not allowed to have confusion. You're not
Mm,
allowed to have curiosity. You're not allowed to have uncertainty. Like it's almost like, you know, if a child says this, then we need to catapult them over there.
mm.
If a child says it this way, then we have to catapult them over there. And so why do you, in your own perspective from, your journey, why do you feel like it's so extreme right now? At Because at such a young age, you were like, I was just trying to figure it out, and you didn't really have any support with that. Do you feel like that for you, if you had support, that you wouldn't be where you are today?
I feel like if I had support to explore different, um, okay, for a perfect example, I wanted to take mechanical engineering in BOCES.
Mhm.
My grandmother at the time was the guidance counselor to the school that I was going to, and so she prevented that. That was not an option.
Mhm.
So that completely just it was something that I've never been able to explore, and now I don't have no interest to. But it's little things like that that can be stifling to someone's actual potential, I
Mhm.
suppose. Because who knows what I would be doing now? I may not have felt the need to transition if I was given the opportunity just to do the action as a female and not being told boys only, this is only for males. So,
Oh, so what I hear is that if the specific tasks, right? Like cooking is for females, laundry's for females, the garbage is for males, driving trucks is for males, um, stuff like that. If those didn't have the connotation of male or female, and you were just allowed to explore that any of those things uh, as a female, you might not have felt the need to be a male. That's what I'm hearing. Is that
I may have not felt the need to try so hard, yes, to validate, okay, well, if males are allowed to do this, maybe I should start in
that's what
that
you wanted to
direction.
do?
Yes.
Right.
So
Okay.
So so it was because
Yeah, it
it's
is
no, it's a
it
it's a very
fits.
it's a very fascinating it's a fascinating story in the way that it does stop you to think, for what you're saying. So what I'm hearing is that if you did have the support of your family, well, first,
mhm,
did you have any support
yeah.
when you were having these? So none, not even from friends, community, nothing.
I slowly started to gain a friend group that I felt comfortable with, but most of my childhood was pretty just direct.
Okay. And so what you're saying is that if you had gotten some sort of support
Mhm.
from somebody in your family that of importance, your mother, your grandmother, somebody of
Like
significance.
if someone had said it's okay if you want to go outside and play football with the boys, it's okay. That would have been perfectly fine, and it probably wouldn't have caused me to have such an emotional detachment from. Well, I want to do this, but I can't. Well, I want to do that. I can't. So
Mm,
I
okay.
started to restrict myself based on what other people were telling me I was allowed and not allowed to do.
Okay. Okay.
I was just gonna say I think that's where it kind of stemmed for me too, which is where I knew that I wanted to date girls, but I knew only men could date girls.
Mm.
So I think that that's where when I started to even think about it even a little bit, I think that's probably you make a really good point there. That yeah, I get that. I understand that.
Yeah, because another question that comes up a lot, you know, in media and people and things that people say, social media, you know, all this type of stuff is that why not just be a butch lesbian, a masculine woman? You know, why take the next steps to completely transition? Um why, like, and how would you respond to that question? Like if someone asked you that, like how would you like respond to that?
But word it again, real quick.
So saying why fully transition when you can just be a masculine woman, like kind of like what you were saying. Like if I
Like
had
me.
just been,
Me. How do you do the hand? Like me.
yeah, like you know, if you know from what you're saying is that if you were just allowed to do the things you wanted to do that made you excited and do the quote unquote men things, boy thing, masculine things, and be able to channel more of that masculinity that you have as a woman.
So like I was allowed. Like my
Mhm.
grandparents did not care. They were, if you want to go play football with the boys, that's all I had around me were boys outside in our neighborhood. So if I wanted to go outside and play King of the Raft with the boys or play football with the boys, or they were like, bye, I'll see you later. Just make sure you're home before the street lights are on. They did not care. If I wanted sweatpants and running shoes, they did not care. I could do, if I wanted to do boy things, I did boy things. And that was
I think that's absolutely wonderful.
right. So, and I turned out to be just a butch lesbian, whereas you were suffocated and stifled, and you felt you had to be trans or to go trans. So I think that's what she's asking is if you had had your parents just be like, go play with the boys, go do the thing, go be a mechanical engineer, all that. Would that have? Is that what you're asking? Did I?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It definitely would have just made me feel more comfortable to be able to do anything that I wanted. So, yes, I did transition, but now I do feel like maybe I didn't necessarily need to still be good at all the same things that I wanted to do. Like I could be good at this as a male and female, but I don't see those two perspectives. I just see the task. I'm good at the task. And
Mhm.
everybody else says, well, this is the version of it that's a boy, like this is the version of it that's a girl. I'm like, no, we don't need all that. So
So for you, it felt because
like I
everything,
was always being pulled in two directions.
yeah, and everything was so labeled that like
Mm,
this is for women, this
yes.
is for men, this is only for men, this is only for women. And so what you're saying is that with that pull all the time and you just wanting to just hang in the middle and just do what you wanted to do and be who you were, that it was the confliction of that and the constant pull of that that was part of your.
It made me feel like I wasn't part of my social group nor part of my family's expectations. So the black sheep
Mm,
could be a good perspective.
okay. Um,
Yeah, as a kid feeling like the black sheep, that's no kid wants to be the black sheep of the family. That's a tough thing to you just want to fit in. You want to do whatever you can to fit in, have your family be proud of you. Um,
mhm.
and so yeah, I can see where also that causes you to kind of, all right, well, what do I have to do the things I'm good at? I have to be a boy to do the things that I like and I'm good at to get my parents' approval to not be the yeah, that's a tough road to go down.
Yeah, yeah. And so let's go back a little bit. So you were saying that you started to when you were in first grade, you said? When you
Mhm.
started to look at your face and
Not recognize it.
not recognize. Okay, because I was gonna say, was it like you didn't like what you saw, or did it just not make sense with how you saw yourself?
That one. I never felt like I was actually looking at my own reflection. Like there was another person constantly looking at me. And when
Okay.
I save my face, I still get the same feeling. Um, so so yeah, it I do my best to validate my own feelings with just knowing, like, I know I can do this. It has nothing to do with what gender I am. If I can do this, I can do this.
Mm-hmm. And when did you get to that place of being able to say, this is just who I am? It has
Not,
nothing to do.
not until my late 20s.
Okay.
It did take a couple years of struggling for that feeling to be like, no, this is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. So I guess with that statement, and then kind of what we were talking about, is that there had to have been a lot of, I guess, confusion might be the right word, because you're saying at such a young age that you already weren't recognizing yourself in the mirror, but then the confliction from both sides to fit into these categories.
Yeah. I started growing a mustache in 6th grade that I then had to start shaving. If that can give you a representation of how uncomfortable that made me feel, of having to wear girl clothes, but then I'm shaving a mustache. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And with my family basically dismissing the male perspective of that personality, I just kind of had to kind of like keep it secret for a little while. Like, I'm just a hairy girl. I convinced myself that's what I was. And that's what my family convinced me that I was. My mother actually told me, you're just a hairy girl. So, but there was no opportunity for me to say, well, maybe there's other things going on that I need to talk to somebody, or if somebody can explain it to me so I know why my body's going through this. But I never got that opportunity because it was not considered an option.
Yeah, it wasn't a topic of conversation that you were allowed to have. You weren't allowed to have that conversation of like, okay, I have no idea what's going on. And especially at that age, none of us know what the hell's going on. And then on top of it, it's really like, I just need somebody to talk to, even just to sit down and listen, even if you couldn't find the answer, because maybe there wasn't an answer at that point for you. But the fact that you weren't even able to just kind of sit down and just be heard, of like, okay, I'm going through something right now and I don't know what is going on. Did you have any sort of support in school that you thought maybe you could reach out to? Like, I know now it's big, there's counselors in there and that kind of stuff. Did you ever feel like you could resource that in school?
No.
Because it wasn't available, or because you
because being trans still was like a taboo word. I came out in 2007, and I came out in Catholic school. I was then just ridiculed for being a lesbian. And like I said, my grandmother was the guidance counselor. So I didn't have even a resource to just have someone to go and talk to and explain, like, I don't know why my classmates are treating me this way, kind of thing. So,
I missed that part. So she was.
Yeah, she went full on Catholic school.
No, not that part, but that your grandmother, who already doesn't approve of this, is now in a very space where you could have potentially had somebody to support you and be there for you. But she's a guidance counselor, so she's in the counseling department. So there was no option. At this time, were you starting to find friends to be able to support you on this, or no?
I didn't find friends until I got completely out of Catholic school, to where I was then put in public school and I was able to interact with other LGBT students that were kind of going through like their own thing, but I didn't feel so secluded with just being able to look at a female or talk to a female, because everything that even just talking to a female classmate in Rome Catholic, I'm just the lesbian. So it was just very mean, very, very mean to say, in the easiest way.
And you were there from what, kindergarten to?
2007 to let's see, I spent 4 years there. So I graduated in 2009. So I want to say I was there from 2005 to 2008, something like that.
Okay. But that's a tough school to be in.
Yes.
Even I've heard stories about Catholic schools. I mean, I was always in a public school, but
Did the public school have like a group, like a LGBTQ group for kids that they all just
Not necessarily a group, but we could find each other, I suppose.
you all
It was
know who you
easy.
knew who each other was in this? That's how.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did
it
you
was
ever
easier to feel accepted there.
did you ever find group outside of school? Because I found a group outside of school. Miguel, and then another one was Kelly. They had a group. It used to be across from the Uptown Theater on Genesee Street. And I went there like once or twice. Did you ever find a group outside of school? Like a support
No,
group? No.
no, but I did try to put myself into other groups where I felt like I did have some type of friends. I joined Life Team through the church. So that was just an outside group, but not necessarily a group that I felt like I fit in. But I was putting myself in there because I just wanted some type of friendship
Mm.
that wasn't going to be judged
Mhm.
as so crucially. So
And you said you
not
found this through a church?
kind of, yes.
Okay.
Life Team, yes.
Okay.
So I was able to go and hang out with people outside, and then I, like I said, I didn't really find friends until like outside of high school in my 20s
Was
when
when
I
you
was able
started to find.
when I was able to finally start cutting my hair and wearing the clothes that I wanted. Then my friend group kind of like attracted to me.
Was that the biggest freedom for? I remember when I was allowed to cut my hair once I got out of high school, and I mean I chopped it
Yeah.
off slowly because my hair was long, but once I got it down to where I want, oh man, I was
I
so
did
pumped.
because my hair actually went all the way down to my dimples, so it was just
Mine was
long.
down to the middle of my back too.
That is when we first met. Do you remember when we first met?
Yeah, I was still rocking bandanas. Oh
You
yes.
were.
So the way that I got around not being able to cut my hair was I just never showed my hair. So I was wearing bandanas in school long after they had actually banned them.
Yep.
They had banned the gang colors. So I would find bandanas that would have different designs on them to
Yep.
kind of get away with that. And at RFA, I kind of was allowed to get away with it because it was considered a female headscarf. So I just took it, and I'm like, all right,
And ran with it. Yeah.
as long as I'm allowed to wear it and I feel a little bit more comfortable, I can take this entire braid and like wrap it all up. I was doing everything I could to cover up my hair
Mhm.
because my hair was like the symbol of being a female from my perspective. So
Yeah. Yeah, because that's when
it's
we
now,
first met.
I would rather have long hair and a mustache than long hair with no mustache, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, okay. I know we keep going back and then going forward, and then I want to keep going back. So having those feelings when you were in first grade, can you kind of explain how they intensified through your teens and then into your early 20s? And then when did you start doing your research? Because that was the one thing from from the first time that you were on here with us, was that you explained that you did your own research before you chose to do any sort of big body changes or anything like that. And so I think that that's such an important thing to talk about, because from other conversations and other stories, we hear that it was such a small conversation, and then the big surgeries were happening, and then the recoveries were not well, and all of this type of stuff. So going back, starting in first grade, as best that you can remember, like, how did the feelings start to intensify, where again it wasn't just the clothes, or it was navigating the clothes because you had to wear them, but still feeling inside that this just wasn't how you saw yourself and felt like you were?
I would become extremely nervous to talk to other females,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I would feel completely fine wrestling with the boys, going outside, but when it came to even just having a conversation, I'd feel like weird and fluttery and is talking to you making me nervous kind of feeling.
Mhm.
So that's where it started to progress. Like, maybe I'm attracted to this person and I'm feeling this way because of that. But then why
Butterflies.
am I feeling this way kind of thing?
Mhm.
That's when it started, was when I felt too nervous to talk to females. I didn't feel like that was like I'm a female, I should be able to talk to females. So what's wrong? Kind of thing.
Yeah, so it didn't feel necessarily just like a shy thing. Like, oh, I'm just a shy person. Like, you know, you kind of get to know me when you get to know me, and then we become friends or we don't become friends. It felt
Right.
more like I like cannot physically do this. Like almost like you couldn't what's the word I want to say? Like feel like you had anything in common?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
That's a good way of putting it. I didn't feel like I had anything in common with females. So
And so that was hard for you to be able to just have a
just having
simple
simple interaction with them. Yeah.
yeah, and then it just continued to get harder, you know, once you were in high school and then into your early 20s?
Hmm.
And then did you feel like, because I know you said you started to make friends, and when you started to make friends and have your support group or whatever, it was when you got into that group that you started to feel like you could just have a conversation and just be who you were?
Yes, public school is definitely easier than Catholic school. I will say that. Maybe not for everybody, but for me, it was definitely easier going into a public school because I was able to have conversations with other people that were doing the same thing. Their families had no problem with what they were doing, so I'm like, so it's not just maybe it's just my family
Mhm.
because other people are allowed to do this. So that's what started to pique the interest of maybe it's just my setting, not necessarily me. There's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with the environment I'm growing up in.
Mhm.
So
When did you realize that it wasn't necessarily that you didn't have things in common with women, but that it might just be that you have crushes on women? Because, you know, straight women will say all the time, oh my God, I remember my friends in high school, I don't know how to talk to him. I don't know what to, and I was like, oh my gosh, just write him a note. I'll bring him the note. I'll give it to him when I play basketball with him later. And I would do that for my friends all the time. They were too nervous to talk to them because they liked them.
mm,
And so, I mean, I remember feeling that way about certain girls that I was around, and it was just, oh my God, is she really going to come talk to me right now? I have no idea what I'm going to say.
mm.
Whatever the question is, the answer is yes, yes, yes. Like it's so. Did you ever feel like you found that point where it just kind of clicked in your head, like, oh, maybe it's not that I don't have anything in common with women, but more or less that I have a crush on that girl or I have a crush on that girl, that kind of thing. Or did it
That
never get
one,
there? It could possibly be that it never got there and you just really, you know,
it's hard to distinguish exactly when that feeling. Yeah, I know it happened at some point, but for me to categorize it as it happened around this time because
yeah,
of
no, no, no.
I
But is
have
it
a
more towards when you started dating women, when you actually started dating them and felt comfortable dating
uh,
women, or?
when I got to RFA, I did have a girlfriend. So that was a new experience for me. But then again, I wasn't allowed to bring her home, or if I told my family, like, this is my friend. So that had to happen for years, even after I graduated, just out of respect for my grandmother, because I didn't think that they would understand. So for a long time, this was just my friend that I brought up.
Yes, I use that all the time. How else do you get to bring them into the house? You don't get to bring them in. It's like if you had a boyfriend, no one's letting your boyfriend in the house. No one was going to let no, she's my grandma. This is my best friend.
I had one friend when I was living at at my grandmother's house. We were kissing on the bed, and I heard my grandmother open the door, and I like flung her off the side of the bed out of fear for my grandmother to even see us sitting that close together. So At the time, I guess it wasn't funny, but now I can laugh about it.
Oh, it's hysterical.
Yeah.
I physically, I was like, oh, I like threw her off the bed out of
Arms up.
fear. Like, no,
Arms
my,
over the
But
yeah,
that's some of the weird stuff too, is that your parents, when you're a girl and you have your friend over and it's another girl, it's no problem for the two of you to sleep in the same bed or lay on the floor together and fall asleep under a fort. And your parents don't care. It's two girls together. What could possibly go wrong?
until you come out and say that
And then until you
you're
say
gay.
you're gay, and then
Then it's a problem.
right?
Yeah.
Then it becomes a problem.
Then you're allowed to go hang out with the boys and they don't care.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Your best
No, I don't have
boyfriend
to
can
worry
come
about
home and hang out, and they're like, "That's fine."
All day,
but
every
yeah.
day, and nobody cares.
Yeah, that absolutely happened too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So when we first met, where were you on your transitioning journey? Were you just in the beginning? Because we were in our 20s already when we met. So were you, because when I first met you, I had no idea that there was any sort of
I was already wrapping my chest and
Okay.
just going by Seth, but I hadn't actually said this. I'm transitioning. I was just putting myself into a more masculine role, I suppose.
No, I met you before that at Lisa's house. So I don't know.
Wrap my memory up.
Yeah. So I don't know. And I won't speak the name if it is uncomfortable. But I met you. I don't know if it was your born name, as your given born name, that is not anymore. But
His dead name.
Is that it's called your dead name?
Yes.
Okay. So you weren't Seth until Garrett and I got together. So
Okay.
I had met you before when you had long hair and you were out as a lesbian and that kind of stuff. So we met a long time before.
Okay, so yeah, maybe it is longer than I thought.
Mm-hmm. The first time we met was when Lisa was living on was it Kellogg Road? Right over by she was like in an upstairs apartment over by the pizzeria by Tony's in Washington Mills.
That I don't remember. That I'm not sure of. So.
Yeah.
So you guys are basically all coming out around the same time, because Lisa's another butch lesbian. You're coming out. You're basically a lesbian at that point, just a more masked lesbian. You're figuring you're figuring your shit out too.
My shit out, yeah.
So y'all were just a bunch of babies trying to figure out how goes it.
Sarcasm is a very good stress reliever when it comes to that. We were all just a bunch of sarcastic people, and we all enjoyed each other's company because there was nothing wrong with. There was no judgment in our friend group.
Yeah.
It was just, we're all here. We all dress like this. We all act like this, and we are all okay with this.
Yeah. And there wasn't any pressure either. And something that I experienced when I was coming out was that the pressure to be out. So obviously everybody on the screen knows my ex. Like, she was already out. She was out for a long time. She was out and proud. She had her friends and whatever. I was coming out much later and going through realizing that I had feelings for her and figuring out what that looks like.
And you had a boyfriend at the same time too.
I dated boys because I was very much like,
y'all were trying to figure out how goes it. I get it.
Yeah.
You're all together.
But there was
I have had 2 boyfriends in the past before.
Yeah.
So.
But there was that pressure that you had to be out because your partner was out. Did you ever feel that type of pressure when you were in your transition, where you, like, from certain people, like, there was the pressure that you had to be a certain way, kind of what you were experiencing when you were younger, where you had to fit in this box and only that box, and you could never go and open that box. You always had to be over here. Did you ever feel that with relationships while you were in your transitioning process?
So one of the lines that I would hear frequently is, I am like having the best of both worlds. So for a long time, I found it easier to date bisexual women to try to give them that perspective. And that wasn't making me happy either.
I was going to say, how did that make you feel when your partners would say that?
It's like at the time, I just kind of like let it go. But it always bothered me. Like, no, I don't want to be the best of both worlds, and I'm trying to.
Oh, I get it. It took me a minute. I didn't know what you meant. Now I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Sorry.
I always felt like there was a tug of war between what side of me they wanted to see like they said the best of both worlds, but I felt like the feminine side was more accepted than me trying to be in the male role. So I eventually didn't like that perspective or that compliment. I no longer found it as a
I got a lot of that too. I found you said it was most bisexual women.
compliment.
I was always hit on by a lot of straight women because they just assumed right out of the gate that I was a dude. They had no questions. They weren't even thinking I could possibly be a woman. So I got hit on by a lot of straight women. And yes, I get the some on the fence, or they just hate men that day because their boyfriend pissed them off. And so visually to them, I still fit the male role for them, but they don't have to be with a male because I'm a woman.
It's like my
So
gender changed from the perspective of
yeah,
how they wanted to see me for
right.
whatever argument or conversation.
Well,
More recently,
no, go
I
ahead.
had two. Hmm?
No, go.
More recently, I had two friends that got into an argument, and I was actually brought into the argument because it was said that he had spent the night at a female's house and she had come over to spend the night at my house. Now, during their argument, it was told that, oh, Kai's different. No, you respect me enough to use male pronouns until it comes to you wanting to validate your half of the argument, and all of a sudden I'm no longer a male, but I'm a female. That shouldn't just be a switch that you continuously get to use because of your own perspective. Yeah.
I'm gonna get into this just a little bit, but I feel like they will always do that, and I feel like that comes down to the fact that men will always be more comfortable with their girlfriends going over to, and then I don't want to be disrespectful in any way, shape, or form, but to sleep over somebody's house that doesn't have a penis.
Well,
Right.
my male friend defended me. It was her that basically wanted the validation of no, I didn't cheat because Kai is considered a female.
And
That was her validation for the argument. So
gotta
I
get
still run into the instance
used.
of people just picking and choosing what gender I am
Yeah.
That suits them.
Yeah.
that suits
their
them.
I get that. I get
that
that.
suits their narrative, that suits their argument, or so when you, and again, whatever, however deep explanation that you feel comfortable giving, but when you said that some of your partners would like the best, or would say that you're the best of both, what does that mean? Is it physically outside you would represent one, at home it was something else, or was it like kind of like with this argument that you explained, that like situational, which was what was best for them when they felt like it was best for them?
Um, hmm. That I think that perspective would be better given from their perspective. Because for me, I didn't really see a difference. Obviously, I need different equipment for certain activities.
Mhm.
So I feel like that could have also been where the distinguishing like factor came from when it came to best of both worlds. Like, oh yes, he's a great guy, but I also feel comfortable because it's a female kind of thing. Like, so I still don't know if that was because of me or because of their personal preferences. That I'll never know.
Gotcha. And that was difficult for you because, again, it was like you're choosing the parts of me that you want to see that are best for you to make you feel comfortable.
Yes.
And how were you able to kind of navigate through that? I know you said you kind of dealt with it for a little while, but then eventually you got to a point that you were not accepting of that. What kind of got you to that place of being like, this is just unfair for me?
I was always a workaholic, so it was always a good distraction just to be working. That was always one thing that my family was always proud of me of was I always was able to hold a job. So I tended to just let that be like, well, at least I'm working kind of perspective. So I'm working, I'm providing. I'm working, I'm providing. That was always the go-to. That's how I validated myself, basically.
Mhm.
I so get the fact that now you don't like there being an assigned gender role to I get it too, because I also like to protect and provide. I like to take the garbage out. I like that's the role that I like. And unfortunately, because it has male roles, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get that. I'm not doing it because I want to be a male. It's just roles that I
It's just
enjoy
something I want
doing.
to
It
do.
makes me happy, and yeah, I can see that. I get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
Now that you just said it like that. Yeah, I see how that goes.
Yeah, because again, a lot of the conversation is around, well, now you're older and you have the freedom to just be who you are. So for you, why did you choose to take the next step and get your top surgery?
I've always had an issue with my chest. I love running. And so just the extra weight, the bouncing was always made me uncomfortable. So no matter how small I got, I eventually I was strapping to the point where I actually shrunk my own chest.
Mm,
And I was going down to like a little B cup. At one point I was a C cup. So, but even just having them there made me uncomfortable. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to just get the chest surgery without having to go through the other process first. So I thought, all right, maybe this is the step I got to take in order to be able to do this. So.
mhm. And then how did that start? So I know you touched on it a little bit on the last time that we talked, but when you had made the decision that top surgery was something that you really wanted to do, you had explained that you did a lot of your own research first.
Yes, I did research on like the long-term effects of both top and bottom surgery, the effects that the hormones were going to do. So I definitely wanted to go in more prepared than I guess just saying this is what I want to do. Like this is what I want to do, but there are different factors and risks based on my body, my weight, everything. So I wanted to be more. I wanted to have more information going into this,
Mhm.
putting myself through this process.
Yeah, and I love hearing that because not many stories share that light. They don't share that they chose to take control of the best that they can, which is getting more information. Knowledge is power, and the more information that you have, the more questions you can ask, the more people you can talk to, the slower you can go to make sure that it's a right fit for you. Um, I feel like the narrative is that you must do it right now. You must do it the first minute that you think about, in your case, getting your top surgery. So for you, why was it so important for you to be prepared and to have your own knowledge versus trusting the doctors and the counselors that are supposed to be the professionals that have all that information? Why was it important for you to know that on your own too?
Mm, I guess the best way so I can say that I got as much information as possible for my benefit, regardless of what everybody else was telling me. Because for my whole life, everybody had told me what I was supposed to do. Now I have the information to back up my own opinion
Mhm.
on the perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear the Great Danes
Oh,
barking
that's fine.
It's
downstairs.
Don't.
fine.
That's
Yeah, it's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Um, I think that's really remarkable that you did that because I just I just feel like the narrative is so quick. You have to go immediately. You have to go immediately. You have to go immediately. When you started this and you started talking to doctors and counselors, was there ever a point that you felt like you didn't know enough and that you stopped and decided to do some more research?
No, once I started talking to the doctor, they were able to explain things because that was the first time I had even gotten blood work done to show my different levels. So with that information, I was able to physically see that I had a very low estrogen levels. Even on my menstrual cycle, when it's supposed to be it's at its highest, mine was extremely low, and my testosterone was high.
Mhm.
So for the first time, I was able to visually see that my body chemistry was not what I had been told it was for my whole life.
Mhm.
So I was able to like see all the numbers and say, all right, this is why everything could be a little different for me. So it was definitely, it was nice to finally get to talk to a doctor that had that information because I never felt comfortable talking to my primary doctor about any of that stuff.
Okay. Just because you just didn't feel like it would be received the same way, that there would be judgment, that there would be like more of a talk you out of it kind of conversation versus just listening and at being able to ask questions openly? Was it that whole fear of like not being able to be supported?
Yeah, I didn't want to be told this is not normal.
Mm,
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
yeah.
There's
And then when
something
you
wrong with you for thinking this way, because that's what my family had basically ingrained into me, that something was wrong with you if you acted like this. So
yeah.
I was never able to fully be confident with my primary doctor, but I was able to finally get over that fear when it came to an entire facility ready to just listen to me. So.
Mhm. And how many times did you see the doctor or a counselor before you guys and forgive me, I don't remember if you answered this in the last one. But how many visits and how many conversations did you have before you set your date to have your top surgery?
Well, I didn't have to see the counselor constantly. I had to see a counselor a couple of times before I was put on to the testosterone, and then I didn't have to see her anymore. It then was another, excuse me, about 2 years being on testosterone that I was able to, that my levels were going to be okay. Then I was able to like, what is the next step? So the next step obviously was to discuss the top surgery, which I then had to then see the counselor again, um, just to make sure that I was going to be okay with this decision. It is considered, it is considered a cosmetic surgery.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they want to make sure that you're not going to regret it afterwards.
Was there ever a conversation from the doctor of like just breast reduction and taking that step that might have been what would be I guess considered to some the safer versus having the full top surgery? Or can you explain what the difference between those are?
Um, so the difference between a breast reduction and the actual surgery.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily. I don't remember having that conversation. I remember just jumping to having them completely removed because I had already had. They were already so small that it was like almost extra skin just kind of flapping around.
Okay.
So yeah.
Because you had you were binding, right?
Yes, I was binding, and I also do a lot of upper body workouts when it comes to my traps and my shoulders. So they were shrinking on their own, but they weren't going away. I was doing my own personal breast reduction.
Gotcha.
Never
Gotcha.
got a mammogram done.
So by the time you got to the doctor, this was the decision that you
Yes,
both had made.
like I just want them gone now. Yeah.
Huh?
Like I just wanted this
You were
the
ready.
extra skin gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you were making this decision and you were having the conversations with the doctors, going over the risks and recovery, was there ever a thought of like you changing your mind? Like the risks are too big. There's fear of this, there's fear of that. Was there ever a time that you were like, okay, I can't do this?
The only fear I did have was the fact that I was afraid of my nipples rejecting my body and falling off. So I actually made the decision to have them also completely removed.
Okay.
So I don't actually have nipples anymore.
Okay.
I got rid of them. So that was my only fears, having some type of infection happen and my body rejecting a part of it. That's also why I chose not to get the other half of the surgery done. Based on the research I had done, it just didn't seem plausible for me to put my body through that for the results to only have possibly be 50% effective.
Yeah,
Or in
it's
the long
really
run,
low.
I might get an infection based on this decision, and then there's really no turning back because it's not like I could reverse. So,
Right. Right.
I was definitely happy that I had done my own research before going in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was the only thing that I was fearful of was some type of infection. So I made sure that I got all the proper information on how to clean my scars, the draining tubes that I had to have in for a couple weeks, which was not that it was not easy. Moving around is fine. Removing them was painful, very painful. So yes, it is 1, 2, 3, yank.
Oh.
And each tube is the length of the scar. So
Okay.
that
And the
was
scar is from the middle of the chest all the way on both sides. It's
I can.
Oh, you're just gonna
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I have the small little indentation on the side from where the tube was. But yes, they went from the center and went all the way to the sides to drain out any of the fluid. So that was the only thing that made me nervous was if I was going to get an infection while healing. But I made sure I did everything that I was supposed to, even though I was told you're supposed to just relax and sit down for hours, just don't do anything. And for someone I'm so active, I was just like trying to figure out anything I could do with my hands. I'm like, can I go for a walk around the apartment real quick? Something. Like the first day I was able to walk down the stairs, I was super happy because then I could go in the car.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think these young people understand that it's not, you don't just go and get a surgery and then you come out of the surgery and everything's fine and you're just going to be whatever it is that you want it to be. There's recovery. There's
there's actually a lot of recovery. You have to retrain your muscles to be able to flex certain ways. There's different, everything's changing. So
I mean, man, the draining tubes you just explained to me
that was not fun.
Yeah, no. I don't, man.
You have to keep them in for a couple weeks while you heal, and then I had internal stitches, which just kind of like fell off, I guess. Some of them I actually had to pluck out, but they didn't hurt when I took them out.
Yeah.
The healing process was very easy.
The what?
The recovery, the healing process is easy as long as you do what you say. The recovery process for you to be able to move in what would be a normal, like even just extending your arms, that takes a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I will admit I had nightmares a couple times of like going to go reach for something and I'm coming apart at the seams. So there is the psychological aspect of you did give a little bit of trauma to your body, and that is going to have
major surgery. That's not, you know what I mean? It's you don't want to break your arm and have to go in for surgery. That's not fun. That's you're have to change your body. That's not, going to get a cavity fixed, right? So
yeah.
But I'm glad you took it upon yourself to understand the risks. That's awesome.
And it sounds like your doctor that you had in the place that you had the surgery done was a really good place. Like it sounds like that you had a lot of conversations. It sounded like you had a lot of support. And it sounded like the recovery was really thought out and explained and done correctly too. We hear other stories about what's her name? Baby, I don't remember it off the top of my head.
From the Candace Owens podcast, Brianna Ivy.
Yeah, so Brianna Ivy shared her story and how when things started to go wrong, her doctor like stopped answering her and completely dismissed her.
Yeah, she was male to female.
Okay.
and the surgery that
She had the bottom surgery.
yeah,
And it didn't go well. And then
and he kind of just kept dismissing her and sending her to other people and specialists, and the specialists were like, I'm not doing this to you. I'm not doing this to you. It's going to kill you. Like, and I won't do that to you. And so she'd go back to her original doctor, and he's like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. And then he stopped answering her. So I just,
it was bad.
Yeah. And so the fact that there's hope that there are doctors that also care, because it's unfortunate in the healthcare, even just primary care doctors, like you said, like they spend zero time with you, have no idea who you are. And for something as major,
just a money grab.
Yeah. As major of a surgery that you're choosing to do. And again, you made the choice as an adult. It wasn't, you didn't rush it when you were younger. You made the choice to inform yourself and find all that information and really decide that this was something that you wanted to do.
Just one more question about that. When you were deciding, about your surgeries, did it ever cross your mind that you might ever want to have kids, to leave that option open, or is that not part of how you visually see yourself?
So I've been a dad about in 4 different relationships. It's a nice feeling, but I did make the choice. I was explained fully that once I get on I was given the option to freeze my eggs, which would have then prolonged me being able to get on testosterone for about a year. So I made the decision to basically take that option away from me. So
okay.
I was, like I said, I was fully explained, like, once you're on testosterone, it will start to damage your ability to carry a child, conceive a child, properly give birth. I still have all of the equipment,
right,
but the medication would have made it so I have different complications
right,
that would put me and the baby at risk. So instead of putting my body through that with the eventuality of maybe I might have kids, I was already in the mindset of, well, I've been in a relationship with people with children, and I was able to take that role just as easily. So I don't necessarily need to pass on my genetics to get that feeling. So I chose to take that option away from me. Now that I have been on testosterone and I've taken myself off my testosterone, I do not know if my body will start to regulate the estrogen hormones capable for me to have a child again. I would have to go and talk to my doctor and get more blood work, which I'm currently in the process of trying to get all my medical information together so I can give it to the recruiter.
Gotcha.
But I did I was given that option and I chose to.
So you took the chance of never being able to. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. I was just curious.
Yep. So
Dude,
no more little Kais. No more little Kais, just me.
Well, yeah, so we're at the hour. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I just want to say again, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and to give light to the journey that you chose and how it benefited you, and now you're living your truth. And I just want to commend you, because speaking from a parent's perspective, of the fact that, you chose to just take your time. You chose to do your own research. And we'll leave it at this, if there's one thing that you could tell the generation right now that is in this need to rush, what's the number one thing that you would tell them?
Don't be afraid of your own feelings. Always validate your feelings before you validate somebody else's opinion on how you should feel.
Like it. Love it.
Mic drop.
I love it.
Mic drop.
Dude, it's always good to have you.
That's right. Thank you so much for doing this. And
yeah, well, I will definitely catch up with you again. We definitely want to hear about
when you get all the information from the recruiter. Let us
Yes,
know, and we'll come on.
I take my test in 9 days. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that. Again, an opportunity that I'm giving myself as an adult because I didn't feel comfortable going into even this line of work as early as I could have. Like I could have joined J Rotzi very early, but yes. So I'm
Awesome.
super excited.
We'll get at you, dude.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that experience. So
Thanks
thank you
again.
so much.
All right, man.
Thank you for having me.
Love ya.
Love you. Bye.
Oh, you did it. I didn't even do it.
I did do it. Bye.
Oh, always awesome. Yeah, that was good. There was a bunch of things I learned in there that I think he and I had similar thought processes in a lot of ways, and I personally didn't know how to put a name to them, and for some of them, he just kind of put a name to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nice to see two different perspectives, even just you and him, and that's why I think having the conversation of, you guys felt a lot of the same things and also chose
Yeah,
two
two
different
different
paths,
paths.
and that's okay too.
Yeah.
It's really just living your truth in what that looks like. But the number one thing that I just was so excited that he continues to share with his story is the fact that he just takes his time. That is the one thing that I will say over and over and over and over and over again. And I know that gets the backlash, and I know it comes across as not being supportive. It's not that. I just feel like there's so many steps that can be taken from 0 to 100. There's so many steps in between. There's so many conversations to have. It's not saying that you can't. It's saying just please slow down, because the body goes through so many changes from the time that you're a baby to a toddler to an adolescent to a teenager. And a lot of the conversation is rushing between the end of adolescence and the beginning of the teenage years. The hormones are already all over the place. And then now you're trying to hormone blockers and do this and change the natural anatomy of the body just so the body can be healthy.
So when we're saying like, please stop transing our children, it's not because we're transphobic or we don't want them to have happy, fulfilling lives. It's just, hey, can they get out of puberty? Can their body fully form? Can their hormones fully regulate first? Is their brain developed enough to make individual informed decisions?
Adult decisions. This is an adult decision.
I am happy to look at Kai in the face and be like, dude, do you? You're happy, I'm happy, and I'm happy for him, and I hope he gets, like, I can't wait to see what happens next for him.
Yeah.
But also he made informed adult individual decisions at an age that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
So again, us saying, hey, please stop trying to trans our kids, it has nothing to do with the fact that we're transphobic or don't want kids to end up growing up living happy, healthy, authentic lives.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
They are children and they don't know what they want for dinner. So
right.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
And also too, it's sad for me as a parent to hear stories very similar to Kai, where he just doesn't have support. He doesn't have support from family. And I think what happens in the bigger narrative is that they're putting a blanket around all of us, that none of us care.
Right.
That if our kids feel a certain type of way, if they feel like that they're
we're just going to kick them out and get rid of them, and we don't want anything to do with them anymore.
Yeah, so what they're doing is they're taking away our rights and our choices as their parent to support them. And it's not, and you and I talked about this on a different podcast the other day. It's not going to be perfect. I'm not trying to be the perfect parent. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be the best supportive parent that I can. But you have to give me time.
You have to give me a chance to do it.
And you have to give me time to do it. You have to give all of us time to do it.
My initial reaction might suck, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to turn around and be like, baby, I love you. What can we do? What do you want to do? Do you want to go buy makeup? We can play. Give me a second to figure it out.
We all have the choice to go talk to somebody about that. That's the thing. Like the minute that I'm like, it's not that I wouldn't support them, but what I'm saying is that I'm not going to go from 0 to 100 overnight.
Right.
What I'm going to say is that we are all three of us, going to be in counseling for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that when you become an adult, if you still feel this way, then
we'll still keep talking about it, and we'll support you in whatever
Exactly.
capacity we can.
Exactly. And the fact that, you know, his doctors were so that for me too, part of the story is so good.
Yeah.
The fact that he had great doctors that gave him all the information and all the choices of like, hey, once you start taking these, your ability to have children is going to go away.
Yeah, didn't lie to him.
Didn't lie to him and said, do you want this? And then he took the information, went home, thought about it, did what he needed to do, and then decided on his own.
Yeah.
So that he can live with that choice.
Right.
Whether he could turn around tomorrow and be like, fuck, you know what? I maybe want this now. But at least he can be like, I made the decision. And then he can do the work to figure out that decision and how he's going to navigate that. But when you take, and I learned this from being with you, when you take out the ability of choice away from somebody, that is when you can't go back. If you take away my choice because of something that I said when I was a child, if you take that from me and then I grow up and have lived this trajectory of the choice that you made for me, and it's detrimental.
And giving hormones and surgeries to children is it's a choice you can't come back from.
You can't.
And it's not their choice.
Nope.
They're not making an informed decision at that age.
Right.
So, and they're going to look at you like, hey, you know, I asked for Cheerios and then all of a sudden I didn't want Cheerios. I wanted McDonald's. Like, well, okay, fine. We can go get you McDonald's.
But I can't put it back on.
But I can't, you know, I can't give you your uterus back.
Right.
It's.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, like I said, it finally just ain't nobody mad at trans people. Don't nobody want trans people to go away or fall off the face of the planet or any. It's
we always say it. Stay out of my bedroom.
Yeah, I'll stay out of your bedroom.
You don't need to know what's going on in my bed. And
just,
you know,
stop playing with these babies.
And leave my kid alone. And leave my kid alone and let me have the right to parent my kid.
Yeah.
Without the fear.
Yeah, the state does not own my child.
Right.
The state did not push my kid out. The state did not raise my kid, change
diapers,
didn't do
Where's
shit.
my child support?
Right?
Give me the
child. Actually, we're in a very liberal state. I'm pretty sure that we're technically getting child support from the state at this point. But whatever, still, you didn't raise my kid.
Yeah, you didn't push him out.
All right.
You know, I mean, to some people, I didn't push our kid out either.
Dude.
That was that rumor going around that we adopted.
They always have something fucking
I'm like, you saw me pregnant.
But we're also in a small town,
pregnant,
so I'm not surprised at that shit is. Whatever. Blah. Everybody also says, oh, Garrett looks just like you. He got your genes.
Tall.
And I'm like,
we're both tall. Yep.
I had nothing to do with his genetic makeup, but okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. I'll take it. Whatever. He's cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was good. So yeah, we'll keep on this topic. I'm sick of everybody throwing around that we're homophobic, transphobic, we hate ourselves, like blah 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 blah. No one's saying that.
And that's really
not
that's not what it is. And again, this is why it's so important to have conversations, because getting to see, I mean, and I think we said this on his first one, is that we're humanizing these conversations. And when you're able to humanize these conversations, you can start to see something from this conversation that we just had.
Yeah, will resonate
with someone.
Hey, you know what? The next question I really want to ask him the next time that we have on, he started to bring it up in the first one, talking about how now he sees himself more as non-binary.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it's because maybe now he knows he doesn't have to be a boy to do boy things, but still like seeing himself as masculine. So not so much, hey, I'm a dude, but more like, I don't know. I'm curious to know, and I definitely will. I'll pose this question to him.
Or if and maybe this is what you mean, but like the feeling of like, I've been shoved in this box for so long.
Yeah.
My family has shoved me into this being a woman's box for so long. So then he chose to push himself into the other box as much as he possibly could. And now he's just living his truth. Like, this is who the fuck I am. And I'm not in either box. I'm just me. And he's finally in that center where he's been longing to be without the confliction, where it's like, I leave this here, I leave this here, and now he gets to pick
That's
from both.
another awesome
I
conversation
get
to have.
I get to be me over here from this. I get to be me over here
Yeah.
from that. I get to be me over here from this. I get to be me over here from that.
Because
And
I would always say I love being called a butch lesbian. You can call me butch all day. I get to do whatever the hell I want. If I feel like washing dishes and cooking, I can do that. If I feel like playing football with my kid and going boxing and getting beat up by a bunch of dudes, I'm good with that too. So
yeah,
that was always my thing. I don't find anything like if someone was like, "Hey, you're butch," I'm like, "Yeah, motherfucker, I absolutely am." Like
Yeah.
what? Like that's just that.
but that's something too to think about too.
We just
Because
didn't have this many freaking labels when I was growing up. All these labels are so dumb on so many levels. I just can't even take it anymore. But
yeah, and I mean, you and I talk about this all the time. You and I can literally be, dressed in the same thing, and we don't get looked at the same way.
no,
We
not
just
at all.
don't. And we're literally wearing the same thing. So it's really like,
Man, and I got my luscious ponytail in the back too, but no, nobody
it's not
ever
a ponytail
notices.
right now.
Well, I had to my man bun. Well, now it's my man bun, but when I bring it down, it's my luscious ponytail. Okay,
I mean, it's pretty long.
It is pretty luscious.
It's
I'm
pretty
just saying, I
long.
got my curls back.
And I think that, people see who they want to see.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is, and it's the whole conversation of like, and we say this all the time, we don't get questioned because to most people
We look like a straight couple.
we look
Yeah.
like a straight couple. And that's not who we are. It doesn't mean that you have to change who you are, because the most important people know.
Right. And
who we
also
are.
I no longer care. But
Right.
and Kai said it great too.
Right.
Like you can project onto me all you want. I'm not receiving it.
Yep.
I-
Yep. And I'm not letting it run my life anymore.
Nope.
One of the biggest changes that I have ever had in my life was when my life coach looked at me and said, "When the fuck are you going to get in the driver's seat of your own life?"
Yeah.
And once you get in that driver's seat, nothing else can phase you. I mean, I'm driving along and I'm like, this shit's over here. Okay, I'm going to go this way. I'm going to drive over here. Okay, they want to throw some shit over here. Okay, I'm going to go this way. And so when you finally get in the driver's seat of your life, the rest of the noise is just noise. It still doesn't mean that we shouldn't be having these conversations.
Yeah, that's why I always say, as far as politics go, I'm not letting any of these political parties put me in a box. Like, just because I'm a female, lesbian, half black, butch, whatever, blah 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 blah. I'm not a
With
Democrat.
a white wife and a white kid.
Right. I am not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. I don't like half the shit y'all say. It doesn't mean that I'm super conservative either, but neither one of these parties get to put me in a box anymore. Like, just because I was born this way, now I owe you.
Mm-mm.
No, I
No.
don't owe you shit.
No.
So
Nope. And we all have the right to free
thought.
Yeah. Like,
And just because
I'm
I disagree
allowed-
with you sometimes doesn't mean I hate you, doesn't mean that I don't wish you all the best in this world and that life has to give. It just means, hey, I'm probably not going to do that on my side.
Yeah.
You can do that on your side.
Yep. Yep.
I'm not.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay that I don't agree with you. And I think that now the bigger conversation is that people are deciding that it's okay that we don't totally agree. And also, we can both sit at the same table.
Yeah. Everybody can eat.
Everybody can eat. And at the end of the day, we all want to eat.
Yeah, man.
That's why I say, stay out of my bedroom. Take the money that you need for taxes, whatever. I mean, stop taxing every fucking thing that I do 6 different ways. But
yeah,
like, I pay taxes.
I know.
I mind my business.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we got. All
right, that was another fun one. Good, I'm glad. Deuces. Can't wait to get him back.